Hello, welcome to the Motorsport Review. I am your host, Perry Brown, and this weekend we had the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. 8 races to go before this one. The championship is starting to hot up, and it maybe wasn't the best race. Maybe some people did really love it, but to discuss it with me, to pull it all apart, I have 2 guests. Yes, I'm very lucky today to be joined by Eddie. How are you doing, Eddie?
I'm doing really good, and I'll ask you once again, how are you doing?
I'm very well. Thank you so much for asking. It means a lot to be asked that. And also joining us, returning after a few months away, it's so good to be able to speak to you again. Louis, how are you?
I'm great. Thank you for having us again. And I'm very pleased to see both Eddie and you doing well. Hopefully, we have a more interesting conversation than the Grand Prix itself, apart from quality.
Quali was pretty good, wasn't it? And we'll get into that very soon. So yeah, going into this weekend, I think once again talk was obviously all about McLaren, about Lando versus Piastri. We obviously had the last race at Monza. Verstappen, could he perform? But I think Ferrari, with their practice pace, was showing as well. Leclerc obviously had the last 4 pole positions. Were either of I'd say either of you, and then you're going to talk over each other. I'll put this to you first, Eddie. Were you expecting more from Ferrari? Did you think that this was a bolt set on Leclerc pole position?
No. with how the last races have been for Ferrari and just the season in general, it was a bit of a stretch to hope for a pole position. I mean, it could happen, but how pre-practice had gone and how just last few races, I was not too hopeful for a Ferrari pole and a Charles Leclerc pole.
What about yourself then, Louis? Were you more optimistic, thinking that they had a chance coming here?
Not really, because it's Ferrari. I'm sorry, it's Ferrari.
Do you know what?
Always know they are training lions, and when it comes to the real deal, it's kind of.
I just had to put it to you two, so I didn't have to say it. Brilliant. Yeah. I mean, I predicted.
You bastard!
He's using us as his personal shields to not get attacked on.
That is exactly how this works. So moving into qualifying, then you figured out how this is going to go for the rest of the so into qualifying, and yeah, it was up in the open. You know, who was gonna take this, but Azerbaijan, Baku, this circuit qualifying, it's always about getting that lap in, and I think this weekend really, normally we just I sort of try and skip over qualifying to get into the race, but so much of this weekend was about qualifying that we really have to start there. And of course, straight away we have a red flag pretty much with Alex Albon clipping the wall. I'll quickly run through all of the red flags, and then we'll come back to them, because we had Alex Albon, as I say, clipping the inside wall. I felt really sorry for him on that one. I've done that on all the F1 games ever. Hulkenberg at turn 4 lost his wing, then reversed. I thought that one was they were a bit quick to throw a red for that. But anyway, moving on. The Alpine pair both having an accident at the same corner. Colapinto saying, "I can do better than that, Gasly. If you're going to have a crash, then do it the proper way." Q2 only had only one red flag. Behrman with the lightest tap on the wall on the exit of turn 2. Then we had Q3, and we were sort of expecting this Ferrari. Leclerc's a specialist around here. Well, then he crashes at turn 15. He's done it a few times, got history there. And then finally, Piastri, who never crashes, and I'm sure we're not going to talk about any other crashes from him the rest of this weekend, then goes and crashes at turn 3 as well. So we were left in Q3 with this shootout, perhaps, because we'd already lost Hamilton as well in Q2. There goes the Ferrari hopes and dreams from the chat completely. And we apparently had this straight shootout between Verstappen and Lando Norris, and we didn't properly get it, did we? So I'm not going to go to Eddie. You're a Red Bull fan. You're going to gloat about this. So
Yeah.
I'm going to go to Louis first and just say this session and Max Verstappen. Give us a story. What did you think of that qualifying session from Max Verstappen?
Ludicrous. That's the only word that can come from my mouth. Ludicrous. Let's break it down for a second. First thing first, rain. Since when we saw rain in Baku?
That's true.
Never.
That's true.
Never. We never saw that. And for most of Q3, it wasn't Max on pole. It was Carlos. Who the hell would have thought Carlos would be on pole? Not on my bingo card. Definitely not. And then, if not to make matters worse, everything was looking like conspiracy theory. Make Williams get on pole because it's red flag for weather. Then nobody goes on track. Then we have a crash. It's a red flag again. Nobody goes on track. 3 minutes left on the session. We were like, okay, they're going to raise the flag. The one who gets left gets it. The ones that don't, it's screwed. That's what we thought. And no one was beating Carlos' lap. Lando got by, didn't beat it. Lawson was the closest to do it. And we were like, okay, where's Shaw? Where's Shaw? And voila, he's on the wall. Then okay, who the hell's going to take this pole? Then Max is down in the first sector. We were like, ain't no way Carlos getting pole. Come on. Then 6 tenths faster on the second. Okay, he's getting pole. Then he just chose, I ain't playing games. I'm going to make the pole position by almost a second ahead of this Williams. What the hell, everybody else? And it's Max. He's a ruthless bastard. What we can say about it? He's a ruthless driver. And he chose to pull the candy out of the mouth of the kids. Everybody was like, yay, Carlos the pole. Max.
We were all ready to celebrate. I think Carlos getting second was worthy of celebration, but yeah, very ready to celebrate a Carlos pole position. As you say, we're kind of aware when he got even like long before he reached the line, because that is one hell of a track. When you're waiting for them to get down that straight, it's a long wait for them to finally cut the beam and confirm what you already knew, that Max was taking this pole position. And I'm going to hand to you now, Eddie. You get to gloat, but I'm going to say as well that obviously the feed, we got to see the onboard of Lando Norris's lap, and for me, I think he overdrove the car. The conditions weren't great, but it looked like he overdrove it. It was ragged. He was wild. The back end was kicking out. I was ready to watch Max's lap and for it to be a lot calmer, and it was, but the track conditions were much the same. He really tamed that car. You watch him get like a little bit of slip, he controls it, gabs it up and goes a lot better than Lando Norris did. So go on, you can talk now about Max Verstappen, wax lyrical. How good was Max's lap in qualifying? Go on, over to you, Eddie.
Well, honestly, the second that I saw that Norris did not make it even close to top 3, I was like, okay, well, like if Max effed it up, then it's over. But you can't really expect Max to fuck it up. No, but I'm joking. But all I'm saying is that honestly, I'll just say again what you said. It was an amazing lap, and he seems, like you said, to have really learned how to tame this car that has been more difficult to drive this season than it was the past few seasons. And well, I think it might have been as well a little bit of a personal challenge, because everybody had been saying since the beginning of the weekend, oh, Baku is not Max's favorite track. It's not his best. It's not his. And then I guess he just said it to himself, all right, bet, and I'll put it on pole. But what can I say? It was a great lap. not much more to say. But I remember texting with my friend, because my friend is a huge Verstappen fan, but also a Carlos fan. And I think it's the first time I ever saw her text me, Max, don't put it in pole. I was like, what do you mean? What do you mean, no pole for Max? Yes, put it in. She's like, no, I want Carlos to have his pole. And I'm like, he's going to be second.
I mean, this is a session, and it's the same, think back to last year, and I can't remember specifically everything that happened in qualifying, but I do remember that Lando went out in Q1 because it's just one of those places and one of those sessions of the year where you're going to get disruptions and you're going to get distractions. And I also know that if there's one driver that can cut all of that out and just deliver the lap when they need to, it's Max Verstappen. He does not leave crumbs. He will extract everything in that chance. So yeah, when the sort of rivals to that pole position sort of fell to the wayside, you just knew that it was going to be him, and he wasn't going to accept second either. He was going to take that pole position. So no, credit to him. And I don't want to take Sunday away from him, because he drove brilliantly, drove off and did a Max Verstappen special, led every lap, second Grand Slam in a row. I mean, they're pretty difficult to get 2 in a row. It's pretty damn good. But it was really that qualifying session that set him up for that. So yeah, it was a fantastic session for him.
Sorry.
Yep.
Sorry. But we have to give credit for the creativity behind Red Bull. If we remember, they weren't in no man's land through every single practice session. We were like, yeah, they might be the 4th team of the weekend, maybe 3rd. But all of a sudden, in Saturday, they just knock it out of the park. Both cars. Yuki was fast as well, which is really impressive. And he wasn't far from Max. Max was, honestly, he can outdraw pretty much everything if he's a little bit competitive. And that's exactly what he did. But Red Bull from Monza, we already know the pattern this season is when you take away downforce, McLaren struggles. It's not secret for anybody. And Red Bull is arguably the best car with the aero efficiency, being the best on the grid. And tracks like Monza hide the difficulties on the Red Bull, and actually drivers that can hassle the car around like Max can take everything out of it. So 2 weekends that kind of fit it. We'll see if it just is track restrictive or actually is performance based. That's still something we need to see.
Yeah, we'll get on to that a little bit later. I'm going to dampen Eddie a little bit with a thought process later. But we'll get to that. We'll get to that in a bit.
You cheeky little bugger.
I can't say anything, but I'll just say I'm a McLaren fan, so I might have.
Oh really? I don't think we noticed.
But
I don't think we noticed.
Did not notice. I honestly, like until you said it, I really thought you were a Ferrari fan. Man,
yeah, well, I spent the other weekend in a Ferrari garage, but yeah, I tried to hide my.
I honestly thought those caps were from Arrows in the 2000s, so I'm sorry. I didn't know you were a McLaren fan. My bad.
Arrow's caps were obviously orange, and these are very clearly papaya. There's a big difference.
I'm a McLaren fan. Yeah.
So there was I mean, I hate for the 3rd weekend in a row talking about social media and about some of the views online, but a lot of people after Saturday were annoyed at McLaren. Like, they sent Lando out first in those final runs. We had 3 minutes 46 left. They send Lando out first, and people were saying that was like a bad move. But again, I want to quell that, because I want to say, if the rain comes down as it had been harder, you want to be first on track. If there's a red flag or a yellow flag, you want to be ahead of it. You want to get the lap in. They had every chance there to look like heroes and get that move. And I was thinking to myself, when it came up on the top of the screen, session will restart, and I thought, go. Get out to the end of the pit lane. You have to be first. So I want to quell that straight away. But I'm going to go to Eddie then at this point and go, Eddie, when you saw Max Verstappen therefore leaving the garage last, what were you thinking? That's a masterstroke. That's what I would do. Or were you thinking, no, Perry's right, I would have been first out of that pit lane?
Honestly, I gotta admit that I was not really sure if that was the best strategy or not, especially since it was so unsure of whether there was going to be rain or not. And even the commentators on the broadcast that I was watching on were like so confused, because they were like, you never have rain in Baku, so it might be just like little like humidity, like raindrops from the sea that is right next to the track. So I didn't really think about strategy, but I was like, hey, if we see that somehow conditions seem to be stable, well, I guess that sending Max last out works. I'm going to be honest. I didn't really. This is not the first thing that went through my head.
While watching qualifying,
I was just anxiously watching
that response.
I was just anxiously watching the clock and asking myself, is any of the drivers going to make it? Because you have 3 minutes left to make that one last lap. Are any of them going to make it, or are we going to see Carlos on pole? That's pretty much what I was more stressed about than anything else.
And that was my other thought. That if someone hovers around in the pit lane just that bit too long, your outlap's going to be compromised if you've got to push to get round. I mean, 3 minutes 46, you would think is long enough, but sometimes, as they were saying on the commentary, you had someone that had left the pit lane first start their lap as someone was still waiting in the pit lane because there is that long between. So you're talking 2 minutes sometimes between going and actually going and getting going. So yeah, suddenly 3 minutes 46 can become 1 minute 46, and then it's squeaky bum time. So yeah, let's get into the race. And I don't want to distract from Max Verstappen, because I did that at Monza to you, Eddie, where I said let's go elsewhere and talk about anything else. So we'll start, unlike all of the TV feed that obviously didn't highlight him at all because he was racing on his own, no one opposed to him, but let's talk about his race. I mean, there's not much to talk about, but let's do it. What did you think of his race? He just drove and did a max performance, didn't he?
Yeah, I think after the race, I don't remember who it was that said, I think we might have seen you on broadcast at least like maximum 3 times. That was a flawless race. No mistakes, good pace. There's nothing to highlight because it was just pure perfection from start to finish. That's it. No mistakes, nothing to highlight, there's not much to say except like he drove really well.
No notes.
10 out of 10 would recommend.
As I say, I think he did all his work in qualifying. I did quite like to highlight that point perfectly. Was, when they're talking to the camera at the end, and was it James Hinchcliffe or was it Jamie Chadwick? I think Jamie did qualifying, James Hinchcliffe did the race, possibly, but whoever he was talking to, they have the footage behind them, don't they, of their race highlights and the things that went on. For Max, they just had his last lap. They were just showing him driving around on his own. It was Hinchcliffe. So there was no notes. It was literally no notes. They were just like, here's the footage we've got. Like, try and stretch it out. So maybe the race start, and that was the most anyone saw of him. This was the most Max Verstappen win that I think we've seen in a while, possibly helped by qualifying, but just they got the strategy right, they got everything right. And again, just going to that point, this is what Red Bull do. If there's distractions, if there's disruptions, they dial them out. I think it was yourself, Louis. I'm going to go to you here. You said about Red Bull really trimmed this car out, got the car working. So I want to talk about Yuki Tsunoda at this point as well, and just say this was his best race in a long time. There's obviously the talk of his contract up. Do you see him being able to do enough over the last 7 races to perhaps keep his seat at Red Bull? Or do you think this was just a flash in the pan and he got lucky with some Red Bull sort of optimized setup for Baku, should we say?
That's a really interesting theory, but I'm going to be honest. If this is a one-off performance, there's no chance Yuki even stays on the grid next year. And I'm being really harsh because I like Yuki. He's performed really well over the last couple of years. He's trying to make the work in Red Bull differently, because you don't see anybody complain about his pace on quali. It's just his race is garbage. There's no way to say otherwise. He struggles in a race differently from Checo. He struggled in quali, but in race he could salvage something. Yuki's the opposite. He did well in quali, but sucks at race. And Monza and Baku kind of hidden the weakness that Yuki have on race pace with this Red Bull car. We know that they introduced a new floor in Monza, and Yuki is using it, but he's using a different front wing than Max. Max was using the updated version. Yuki was using the other one because he felt more comfortable to it. If Red Bull is really putting the foot down and saying, okay, we're going to make Yuki feel comfortable with the car so he can perform instead of making a car around Max just because it's the way he can perform, then maybe Yuki will have more chances to showcase performance. But I honestly hope he stays a Red Bull, because if they call up Isaac, he's going to struggle. Red Bull does not make a car friendly for drivers. That's the biggest issue.
Handing that over to the Red Bull fan.
There's nothing to disagree with here. Yes, Yuki's performance this weekend has been very, very good compared to the rest of the season, but I don't think that this is going to be enough to prove himself for a seat next season. And despite the fact that I think that Christian Horner being sacked and replaced by Laurent Mekies did help a lot with Yuki's confidence, and the fact that Laurent is an engineer and knows his things, and he knows what type of questions to ask to make the car better. And I think that this might have helped Red Bull and Yuki a lot. But I sincerely hope this performance this weekend is not going to be a one-off thing for Yuki, and he's going to at least keep some sort of pace for the rest of the season. But knowing that how it's been ever since Japan, ever since he got that seat, it's sad to be this pessimistic, but I don't have much hope. And I think I don't even know if he's going to stay in the Red Bull family, knowing that technically Honda ends their contract with Red Bull at the end of the season. Are Red Bull going to want to get rid of Yuki? I wouldn't be surprised.
Especially because there's Abel Lindblad.
Mm-hmm.
That is the talk, isn't it? Agile to Racing Bull, sorry. No, I had it right the first time. Agile to Red Bull, Lindblad to Racing Bulls. They should... having two names that are basically the same.
I know.
So
they were going to be generic about the names. I'm the guy who honestly like the AlphaTauri name the most because it sounds different. It sounds exotic. Obviously, it's a clothing brand, but having a team that's called AlphaTauri instead of Racing Bulls with the main team being Red Bull.
I know.
I
liked it. I like the AlphaTauri.
I still like Scuderia Toro Rosso, which again means the same thing. But
that's the thing. They wanted to make a sister team. So when you think Toro Rosso, you think development team. You don't think sister team. But AlphaTauri, maybe you can see that because they won races more convincingly. They had more mature performances in 2020-21 with Pierre Gasly and Daniel Kvyat. They had good performance, including Yuki as well.
Mm-hmm.
But change the regulations, they struggle. They change the brand, make Racing Bulls. The car's beautiful, but it doesn't help having the same name and being just a parade for sponsor with V-Car. Honestly, I thought they were going to be the name that was leaked online, because if it was Red Bull Team Visa, I'll be okay. Okay, it's not that bad.
You gotta admit that Visa Cash App Racing Bull is a mouthful to say.
Yeah.
Yeah. Was it the launch where they had Jack Whitehall. I kept wanting to call him Ben Wishaw. No, not him. Jack Whitehall. And they said, tell us the name. And he went, right, I've been practicing this. It's Visa Cash App Racing Bulls. And they went, yeah, you got it right. And it was like, oh my God, your name's that bad. You're making a joke of it yourselves. But let's. So whilst we're talking about Racing Bulls, let's talk about Liam Lawson's weekend as well. Yeah. I think given how well Carlos Sainz's went, Liam's went more under the radar. But again, I think he's someone like Yuki that had a very decent weekend all round. So again, let's go to Eddie first. Talk about Liam Lawson here. How good a weekend did he have?
I was honestly very impressed with Liam Lawson. We know he's had his difficulties, but ever since the swap, it feels like he's more comfortable in the car than he ever was in the Red Bull. And I said it when they signed him for Red Bull at the end of last season. I was like, it's too early. He's not ready. And Red Bull is only doing this because they're out of options, because they dropped Danny Rick, they dropped Checo, and no other drivers from any other team want to be in Red Bull right now because of how toxic this team is and how they manage drivers that are not named Max Verstappen. So I knew it was going to be quite a disaster. And seeing him in the Racing Bulls performing and outperforming Yuki, you see that this is his place right now, and he is developing and he's doing pretty decent. Is he ready to go back at Red Bull like some people are speculating for him to end up at next season? No, absolutely not. But this weekend has proved that he can actually perform in a car and that he has fight in him. And I'm not the biggest Liam Lawson fan, but I was fairly impressed with his drive all weekend long. And the fact that he finished, P5 in the race? Yeah. It's impressive. In a V-carb, it's impressive. And honestly, just hats off to him. He did amazing, and he's developing really well, and he's improving all throughout the season. So yeah, I can only say positive things, which is fair.
Yeah, like Yuki, I hope this is the start of something. That he stands up and says, "Look, I know you're going to promote my teammate again over me. I'm used to this situation," says Liam Lawson. But he's hoping to say, "Look, you can bring in Lindblad next year. He'll be my teammate, but I'm not ready to be pushed over by someone else. He's walking into my team." That's what I think he needs to position himself at. And this is a team now who, going back to like the Toro Rosso years, they used to only keep drivers for a couple of years. It was like the training area for Red Bull drivers. Then they'd move on. But since perhaps Pierre Gasly, maybe even before that, they've sort of seen that, no, this is like a career team now. Like, you can come here, you can make it your own. So hopefully Liam's sort of setting himself up. He's a young lad. He's got years ahead of him. Maybe he can make something of himself. Do you agree with that, Louis?
Honestly, I'm kind of 50-50 on this because I was never behind the wagon on Liam Lawson. I never thought he was that impressive to be in Formula One, if I'm being honest. I thought there was other drivers that were better than him that could have got the seat. And coming back to you, what you said, we all know this, but Red Bull broke when Ricciardo left. He left, and there was nobody in Toro Rosso literally ready to step up and take his seat. You have Brendan Hartley, which he was never that good in Formula One. He's good on prototype racing, endurance racing, GT racing. He's good on those. He's a multi-time class champion on those, but he's not good in Formula. He never was. His curriculum shows that. And you have Pierre Gasly, who was too damn green for the sport. He was 2016 Super Formula champion, and then stayed, I don't know, doing what in 2017, did those last few races with Toro Rosso. Then he had a few good races in 2018. Then all of a sudden he goes to Red Bull. He was not ready. One season doesn't make anyone ready to take on a top team. And it showed. He struggled. He was way too analytical because he didn't have confidence. He never hidden that. And you see after the snowball effect, Gasly, Albon, Perez, Tsunoda, Lawson, it's a snowball effect because they didn't have a backup plan for Daniel Ricciardo. You can say it's Daniel's fault because he chose to do something else. He didn't believe the project with Honda. And Max was taking over the team. We all saw that. Daniel was not blind. And we all thought Daniel would be a world champion by that point. He was one of the, if not arguably, one of the top drivers of the grid. He would be a world champion if he stayed at Red Bull, but then he wouldn't be the equal driver to Max. He would be the second driver. And nobody wants to be a second driver to a generational talent like Max. We all saw that. If we go almost 10 years prior to Red Bull himself, we have Mark Webber, who was there from the beginning of Red Bull, developed the team year after year after year. And then Red Bull brought their protege, Vettel. And what happened? Vettel gained the spotlight, Vettel gained the parts, and Webber is no second fiddle to anybody. He has a mouth. He's going to say and he's going to act, just like he did in 2010. He was the championship favorite, not Vettel, but Red Bull made Vettel the priority. And that's what Ricciardo saw because he was a rookie when that happened. So he didn't want the same treatment. He knows Red Bull was ruthless about this.
And I think that's a good leaping off point when Hajar does get announced, because it seems inevitability at this point.
Yeah.
Inevitable, yeah.
The question will be put out, won't it? What can he do? So we'll save that for when he's announced. But I do want to know Eddie's response. Ed, as soon as you mentioned about Ricardo, Eddie's like, my head, and you might have heard the laugh, because that's like, thank you, someone said it. Yes. So
well,
yes, they are still struggling to find that second driver. And again, who knows? New car entirely next year, made by a new team, pretty much. So perhaps Max is committed to it. Perhaps it isn't just the single driver car that they've seemed to have built and developed over the last 4 years or so of this regulation set. But I do want to focus in on Azerbaijan, and we're sort of talking about the drivers that had a really good, strong weekend. So I'll get to Mercedes in a second. We're going to skip over Russell just for now. We'll come back to that. But we obviously got to talk about Carlos Sainz at this point. And Eddie, again, this is another Red Bull driver that fell out of the Red Bull program that we seem to be background at. But, he did that lap again, talking about qualifying. You had to be in Q3 to have that chance at pole. Obviously, that goes without saying. That's the rules. But then he had to go out there and get that lap in when the weather was at its most unfavorable, perhaps, as well. So what did you make of that lap, and then his subsequent race as well? Talk us through that and what you made of that, because he did come under pressure in the last few phases.
He did, and honestly, I think that the fact that he was able to keep his cool the entire time, whether it be for the lap in qualifying, which was really, really nice, and I haven't honestly no notes. It's just seeing him sort of like start to get a grip on the Williams and perform better than he has in the past few races, because I think he hasn't. Was it that he hadn't scored a point since Canada? Was it? No.
Correct. I think that's what Canada? It said, wasn't it?
So I think this was so refreshing to see a little glimpse of Carlos at Ferrari actually having a chance at a podium, actually having a chance at pole, and finally managing to get a grip on this car that has been quite like bipolar the entire season. Sometimes it performs really well, sometimes it doesn't. And so I think that lap in qualifying, when it was so uncertain and it was so like with like difficult weather and uncertain weather and uncertain conditions, I think it was brilliant.
Yeah, it really was like that get in and deliver the lap moment, wasn't it? And it was quite funny hearing him on the radio as well go like, oh, we need to do a rain dance now. But it was such a good, Verstappen beat the lap by, I think it was 4 attempts in the end, and that's the sort of gap you would expect. It says a lot that A, it was good enough for second, and B, that the rest of the grid, given the same chance, didn't go out and beat that lap. And then when we look at the race as well, we were sort of expecting, the Ferraris, the Mercedes, the McLarens we're all going to just pass them like no one's business, and that didn't happen. I mean, some people probably look at Lawson, the defending he did, and say, well, that held them off. But again, as I say, he was under pressure in that last phase, and he just did what was needed to be done. So, and on the less favourable strategy, it was definitely hards to mediums was the way to do this race, and he started on the mediums, probably a bit scared of what was going to come through from behind and trying to extend that run as much as possible. So, it was a really good race from him. It was really nice to see him on that podium, of course. And a question for you. So I put out and said, how many, sorry, that's not what I said at all. Not many drivers can say that they have a podium with McLaren, with Ferrari, and with Williams. And the answer is 2. There's 2 people. So Carlos Sainz, obviously, from this weekend. Can you name the other guy?
With Ferrari,
McLaren, and Williams. They're three historic names, and yet only one other person's done this.
I have no idea.
Louis? Do you know this? Did you hear the question?
I'm gonna say Prost.
Alan Prost, got it. Yeah, he's the only other person. Yeah, so that's quite a list for Carlos Sainz to put his name alongside Alan Prost in that way. Sort of shows the longevity of him, that he's been able to do so well with these top teams. And yeah, it brings you back to that first red flag. Albon had a bit of an off weekend, of course. You know, it all started with that red flag and a missed opportunity. I think Williams did look pretty strong here. They were spoken about favourably before qualifying. But if one driver had a bad weekend at Williams, perhaps we have to, unfortunately, talk about McLaren. As little as I want to right now, perhaps I think we do have to talk to, again, all the talk pre-weekend, Norris versus Piastri, as it has been for a long time. Where's he going to go? And I can't remember the last time I saw Piastri crash. Not once, but twice. Louis, what did you make of? Let's start with Oscar Piastri's race. I mean, it was one sector. He managed one sector of it. But let's analyze that one sector, and I'm sure the discussion is going to take longer than his race before he managed to find a wall. But talk us through the start, obviously the getting off the line, and then that subsequent crash. What did you think of that?
At first, I didn't understand why I thought he slept on the line and just move on too late. But afterwards, I saw he jumped the start and then went on empty stall. Then he actually went off the cars. But it's a weekend, like you said, rarely seen about Oscar Piastri this whole year. He rarely makes mistakes. And he did way too many this weekend. Obviously, people are getting way too emotional saying this is going to cost him the World Championship. No, it's not. It's a one-off weekend he had from an entire season when he's been almost flawless. But here's the thing. When you are in that position, being the World Championship leader, you have some sort of a margin, and you still don't want to slack off. At some point, you will. And this, unfortunately, was the weekend Oscar did slack off. And it seems like every single bit of bad luck he could have, it happened all in once. The jump start, the anti-stall, being less on the grid, and trying to make up ground too quickly on a green track that didn't have proper temperature on his tires, and he was on hards, which is the most difficult tire to put temperature on, especially in Baku. And we have to talk about the strong point about McLaren that became a weakness this weekend, is that they are too sensible about tires. Not sensible in a bad way, but they treat them really well. And they can manage the tires longer than the others. But that also means they don't have enough energy on the tires off the go. And that's where it starts the struggling, because we saw Piastri making bold moves before the end of this first sector, trying to make up ground. And he just went offline on a dirty part of the track. Rarely anyone went there, and it was a recipe for disaster. Cold tires, hard tires, off the line, dirt track, and he braked too late trying to make a move. It was just a whole combo of situations that unfortunately ended his race and put an early end to the miserable weekend he was having. There's no bright spot about it.
No, not at all. Apart from the memes. I mean, the memes were pretty funny.
Memes were glorious. Especially the papaya roll memes. It started from Friday. Those were glorious.
And also seeing the pictures of Oscar having to walk through the streets of Baku to get back to the paddock.
Or he's stopping mid-race near a post marshal with a cell phone. I don't know where he got the cell phone, just like Charles, and started watching the race. Like,
the mystery,
no worries in the world.
The mystery was debunked for Charles, because his photographer was actually right next to him, right next to where he passed. Yes, Charles's photographer Antoine was like, right next his photography spot was like right next to Charles's crash. So when Charles got out of the car, he just gave him his phone and he continued watching the race.
Hell?
So he was having his own personal photo shoot on the dunes while watching the race.
I didn't know that. That's brilliant. So I was thinking there's a good business venture here for like delivering phones to retired as in retired.
You should start that actually. Go to every race and just wait there with phones.
Like delivery
disposable phones. I don't know.
So yeah, he crashed out straight away. Eddie, the question I saw online, everyone going, "Oh, this is the championship getting to him." Do you agree with that view that this is the championship, or I'm not going to say my bit. I'm just going to leave it with that for you.
The McLaren bias fan don't want to say anything. Oh, so humble of your part. Look at you.
Well, over to you, Eddie.
Trying to find arguments to defend yourself while I talk. I'll give you a few minutes. But no, I don't think it's a championship stress getting to him. I think it was just a stroke of bad luck. We've seen times and times again how cool and like calm Oscar can be throughout the season and throughout the last few seasons. And his first crash is 2023. The last time he crashed was in 2023. He is a man of few mistakes, and he's shown it times and times again. So I do not think it's the stress of the championship. I don't think it has anything to do with the championship. It's just the fact that, hey, tough luck. It happens to everyone. Bad quality, it happens. And jumping the start, it happens to everyone. We've seen it in Austria with Max qualifying, 6th or 7th, and then crashing with Kimi on the first lap. It happens, and I don't think it means anything for the championship, or I don't think it means anything in terms of like his emotions and his feelings towards his championship battles. I think it's just bad luck happens. You get up, brush yourself off, and you go on.
And they've both had to do that. Both Oscar and Lando have had to do that so far this season. Have had a bad result and just bounce back straight away. Yeah, I don't agree. You probably aren't surprised with that.
I have something to say that's going to punch your gut, Barry. I'm actually pissed off about Lando. I'm pissed off about it.
We'll get to that. So we're talking about Oscar here, please. Let me get from one tragedy to the other.
Look at him already avoiding the smoke. He doesn't want any smoke.
So I don't think this was the championship getting to Oscar. As you say, he's won Formula 3, he's won the Formula 2 championship on his way to getting to F1. This guy is made of championship material. I do think once he stalled on the grid and he converted 9th to 20th, that he probably did go into a bit of a panic mode and was thinking, I need to make as many places as possible, because when you see the onboard, I can't remember which Haas, but it's either Ocon or Behrman that's on the racing line on the left-hand side. He's not close to overtaking them, but he seems to brake as if he's going to overtake them, almost like my car's so much quicker, I need to make this overtake here and now. And that's when he ran off into the wall. So that's what I believe. It was just a single panic, and as I say, they'll bounce back from this moment. But yes, let's then try to pick apart Lando Norris's weekend. Again, starting with qualifying, he had the chance there to go and do something. As I said earlier, his lap seemed scruffy. He almost put it in a wall. And then I think we saw a couple of moments in the race where, again, he just has this factor about him. And I've spoken about it on the podcast before, where if you wanted to take Lando Norris as he is, say, like a 97% champion driver and give him that 3%, he hit all of those markers this weekend for like where you'd say there's a gap in his skill set. He lost a place at the start. His safety car restart, oh my god, I don't even want to get into the safety car restart, but we're going to have to. And then where they went with strategy and the pit stop again wasn't his fault, but it led to obviously what we saw. So yeah, Eddie, pick apart Lando Norris's race for me, so I don't have to any more than I've already done.
He is smart. He's leaving me for last. He is smart. He's leaving me for last.
Well,
You're lucky you're still here.
Do you want to flame Lando? Do you want to have it
okay, go on then. Hand over to Louis. Pick apart Lando's weekend.
Go ahead.
Depress me.
Let's start with his comments about him being a party boy instead of hunting the world championship for starters. That right there, I'm actually stunned. Because not even the party driver I ever saw in James Hunt would said he would like enjoyed his life than become a world champion. That already shows to me he cannot be a world champion like this. Because he's not gonna value. He doesn't put the weight it deserves.
Doing a Perry special deflecting there. He's trying to say, no, if the championship comes my way, then so be it. But right now, I'm just enjoying my time as a Formula One driver. But anyway, carry on.
Defensive. All right. That shows me that he doesn't take this season as seriously as he should. Because technically, his teammate is a machine. He ain't gonna leave anything so he can pick up. And Lando is way too inconsistent for his own good. And I'm not saying this in a bad way. I'm saying this in a concerning way. If he wants to be a world champion, he cannot have these off weekends all the time. And he's having them every freaking time, seems like. If not on quali, it's on race. And vice versa. Oscar doesn't. Max doesn't. Lewis didn't. All those guys are multi-time world champions because of that. And this weekend for Lando, it's all about missed opportunities. And how many times we use that this season, last season, about Lando? He doesn't capitalize when everything, literally everything, is handed to him in a silver platter, like, just do your job. It's not like do overboard. It's just do your job. Do your time. It's yours. Just do it. And somehow, he still managed to not make it. And it baffles me that McLaren didn't actually thought of the strategy that will leave him on track longer than anyone else so he could actually overtake those cars.
Yeah, the strategy. So, I mean...
Theory.
So I thought it was...
Then at least the race.
Sorry, Louis, it's cutting out a bit.
Holding them really back. Hear. He wasn't.
Sorry, Louis, just cut out at that point about. I think you're talking about the racing bulls holding him back, and I'd agree with that. Like that's one of the things is that sort of cutting edge that Piastri has to make the move when someone's ahead is holding them up. He got past Leclerc in the closing stages, but other than that, he didn't really ever get close enough to put Tsunoda under pressure in the closing stages. But I mean, the strategy. Let's get to the strategy. Seeing them on the grid on the mediums when most of the grid were on hards, I thought that was the way to go, but it turned out it wasn't. But what fooled me was how long they left him out. I think you alluded to that. Eddie, were you surprised to see them try and hang on to this medium for as long as they did?
No, not really. But I think that McLaren this weekend kind of panicked also a little bit in terms of strategy when they saw that Oscar was like in the wall and that quali didn't go so well. And I think they just wanted to like try to like extend their how do I say it? Kind of extend what they had on track as much as possible. But I don't know, strategy has been kind of all over the place this weekend. It felt all over the place from like turn one when Oscar crashed. And it's quite like, oh, we have a driver out. They're trying to quite like scrambling to try to find the best strategy to advance Lando, but it's like within the panic, no one can think of anything. It felt McLaren this weekend felt very disorganized with all the shunts that they've had. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, it did feel a bit like I remember I saw a comment, someone saying they're operating like a midfield team, and I thought that was harsh, because they are constructors champions and they will be again, this year. It's a matter of time, surely. They're not going to have a Baku weekend every weekend, maybe even worse, because that's what they need for anyone to even come close to catching them. And at the moment, that needs to be a Mercedes 1-2 pretty much every weekend to make it happen. So they're a champion team. They know how to do this. And last season, they came from further back to make it happen as well. So this isn't a team where strategy calls and those big moments where you need to recover something, this isn't a team that's new to this. It was quite surprising, perhaps, that they let things play out the way they did, but at the same time, it's Azerbaijan. You're waiting for a safety car or even a virtual safety car that could have made or broke their race. But what was surprising me was that they were right behind Tsunoda, who also had to pit. And I was thinking all the time, well, if he's going to come out on fresh tires, and they're telling us, oh, it's for this tire delta. I was like, you're going to lose that straight away as soon as he pits the lap later. So I was like, I've got to undercut. You've got to undercut him here. And yeah, as soon as they pitted him, as soon as it was a bad stop, obviously Tsunoda came in, and it kind of put pay to anything that they could do from that point. So a question for you then at this point: the Verstappen championship charge. As a McLaren fan, I think it'd be no surprise that I'm going to turn around and say that I think it's too big a gap personally to Verstappen. But are you starting to believe? Are you starting to think that 69 points to Piastri, that's doable in 7 races? I mean, it's what social media is saying, and it's what Andrea Stella will say if you ask him as well.
Well, it's still technically mathematically possible, but McLaren would have to have a series of bad luck and shitty races like this one for it to actually happen. And well, I've been trying to be like optimistic and say, if there's one thing that Max taught us with the year, and especially this season, it's to never count him out. So while I think it's still mathematically possible, and I would be delighted if it happened, I don't think that I hope for McLaren that they're not going to continue having weekends like Baku and like Monza, or not Monza, sorry, Zandvoort. I really hope for them that the weekends are going to be better and that they're going to actually like have a good end of season. But I'm still somewhat a little bit hopeful that, well, bad luck happened and we get another championship. But is it going to happen with how good McLaren's season has been up until the last 2-3 races? Unlikely, but it's still possible.
And this is where I douse the cold water, because my thought process and prediction for the last 7 races is Max finishes the season on 68 wins, 68 career wins. I think Las Vegas is probably the only race of the ones left where I think this Red Bull will be on the same level as the McLaren. I could be saying that as a McLaren fan. That's why I put my hands up on that. Louis, what do you think on that?
I might say Mexico is a good one for them as well. I agree about Las Vegas, but maybe I want to throw a range. Yeah, Mexico, because Red Bull, it has the best overall, downforce package with their floor. So if they can get in front, I honestly believe Mac can pull a one-off and get the win as well. So maybe 69, but that's being hopeful. Just like everybody thinks, and is already common knowledge. Every single track, apart from those 2 maybe, is McLaren territory. If you don't think that, you're probably being on, I don't know, on the moonlight or something.
Yeah, it's 2 tracks where, Monza, Azerbaijan, you trim the wings. Las Vegas is going to be much the same. Mexico, for me, although they say low downforce, what they mean is obviously low altitude, and you still want the biggest aero package you've got to try and maximize what little wing you've got. So although it's about how quick you can go, it's a quick track, it's still got that higher downforce package on it to try and maximize what downforce you can get. So that's why I think for me, Mexico still goes their way. Plus, it's going to be quite warm. It's like an actual track as well. So for me, I just think that's going to go McLaren's way too. But you know, we've got races to see before we get there how it goes. But Singapore is going to be such a big tell. I think, you know, if McLaren suddenly get back to where they were, especially last year, with Lando just dominating, absolute statement victory in Singapore. If that's where they get back
as well.
Nearly, very nearly, but he didn't. So that's the main thing. I'm aware of time. We're very quickly running out of time, so we'll end the McLaren chat there. Phew, I made it through. I want to talk about Mercedes very quickly, and you know, both of them did really well this weekend. Both Antonelli and Russell, of course, recovering a second place. I was watching the highlights, writing the notes for this, and there was a point early on in the race where Russell was basically, this was at the safety car restart, Russell was basically just ahead of Leclerc and Norris. And I thought, well, how did he convert that position there to second place? It was a fantastic race, but it was one of these ones where he just like appeared in second, as Russell seems to do. But did you either of you really pick up on sort of how second place came about? You're shaking your head, Eddie, so I'm going to go to Louis first. But unless you're trying to speak, no, go back to you, Eddie. You're trying to speak.
Well, I was honestly not ready, but I did not see really how Russell did his thing, like managed to get second place. But it's typical Russell behavior: does nothing, very discreet, ends up on the podium. It's typical George Russell race.
And then, so I was going to hand to you, Louis. You get your chance here. Did you notice why Mercedes might have been quicker? I mean, colder track temperature possibly a factor as well.
That and the little difference there was between the medium tires and the hards, because most of the tracks, those are the soft and medium compounds, and with the lower temperatures on the race, we heard every single engineering saying the degradation between those were way lower than they were, and just sending it on the later one. They could actually do it, and that's exactly what George did, because he had a different strategy than Antonelli. They finished on opposite tires. I think George started with hards and Antonelli in medium.
Yeah, George was on the hards.
If I'm not wrong.
Because I definitely noted that hard to medium was the better strategy, and that's why I pointed at Russell, I think.
And George
better.
Was having to a point move better, and
sorry, it's playing out very slowly, so we could sort of just piece it together. It might make sense, but I heard what you say about, you know, Russell's pace was better. They were on different strategies. There was the team orders call that came fairly early in the race as well. Smart strategy from Mercedes. So agree on that side, you know, letting the quicker car through when they're quicker rather than doing a Ferrari. We'll think about it. We don't really know. And then by the time you make the call, it's too late. So as I say, where we're sort of out of time at this point, really, didn't really get to Albon spinning Colapinto, but there was no real debate on that. He did spin him. It was a clumsy move, again, recovering, and the penalty was justified. I don't think there's any argument to that he got a 10-second penalty, and that was fair. Interestingly, on penalties, a lot of people and the commentary team talking about Piastri and him not being able to serve the 5-second penalty. It won't be converted to a grid penalty. So this is something that they've got a history of doing, basically, where if it's a 5-second penalty, if it's a lower penalty, they have the option to not convert it into a grid penalty. If he had a 5-second penalty to go with, say, a 10-second or a proper heavy penalty, they would apply it with that, basically. So there's credence for them to do that. But good news for us McLaren fans, because we don't have much right now, that it won't be hanging over him for the next race. And good news for the championship, I think, because otherwise they would have somehow had to manufacture a grid penalty for Lando Norris to make things fair, obviously. At McLaren, I mean. So
wasn't Lando supposed to have technically also a 5-second penalty when he crashed in Canada and it never converted to a grid penalty either?
I think he definitely got away without a penalty, but I don't think it was the fact that it didn't get converted. I can't remember, or maybe it's the same thing. He got a 5-second penalty for the crash, but
exactly. So it's only fair that Oscar gets the same. Got to make it fair.
At least it was the FIA, not McLaren, that were doing it. Yeah, and
maybe
that's why
FIA
they
were consistent in that part.
Maybe that's what McLaren were doing at the pit stop. They were like, "Look, Oscar got a 5-second pit stop penalty, so we're just going to apply half of it to you because that's fair." Anyway, I'm going to end where I always do. Louis, unfortunately, he's just returned temporarily. I'm just getting to the bit where I go driver of the weekend, highlight of the weekend. Louis, whilst you're here, let's go to you very quickly. I want a driver of the weekend and highlight of the weekend, please.
Driver of the weekend, it has to be George, considering everything he did, being sick from Friday to Saturday and doing the whole race, not on 100%. And highlight of the weekend, it has to be the qualifying. There's no other way to say it.
Yeah, no, great answer. I think George actually said about this illness, if it was Singapore and he was that ill, he would have called it a day on Friday and he would have said, no, put in whoever the reserve is at. Bottas. We would have seen Bottas driving the car. So,
oh boy.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
He would have had to serve his penalty.
Oh, yes. So,
you still got a penalty to serve.
Oh, didn't they? Oh, I have to look into it. I'm pretty sure they said he won't have to serve it at Cadillac.
No, he has. He has.
I will look into that. I'm going to put it out in the notes or something tonight. I'm pretty sure I saw that he won't have to serve this penalty with Cadillac in the first race of next year. But
as soon as he was announced as a Cadillac driver, they said he needed to, the first race, he needed to serve that penalty.
Okay, we'll look forward to that. Let's see if we can. Jenson Button's still got one hanging over him as well. So if he
but he would never serve it.
Well, never say never, you know. Anyway, qualifying as well being a highlight. I mean, yeah, of course. Eddie, unfortunately, it means you go second, so you get second choice. You can agree, you can just take the same things, of course. But Eddie, your driver of the weekend and highlight of the weekend.
My driver of the weekend has to go to Carlos Sainz. Amazing race, amazing qualifying. And little story, beginning of season, well, just right before testing, I decided to make a little bingo of predictions for 2026. And based on purely what I thought would happen, and we didn't have the data from testing, we didn't have the results from testing. So I've been very much out of, my predictions are shit right now. I had predictions like Charles Leclerc being top, number one in the drivers' championship, winning Monza and or Monaco again. You know, things that are completely unrealistic right now. But in one of my predictions, I had Carlos Sainz having a podium with Williams, and I started not believing in it. But this weekend made me believe in it, and it's that anything is possible. And yeah, I think Carlos has done amazingly well, and I think this podium is kind of like a little jab at Ferrari as well, indirectly. So yeah, it was very satisfying. And as for the highlight, well, honestly, just seeing Max on that top step again, couldn't ask for more.
Favoritism.
But qualifying was pretty entertaining as well, knowing that it literally lasted longer than the race.
Yeah.
It was so entertaining. But that's not necessarily my highlight, but it was so fun.
Yeah, it is another fun stat, isn't it? Like, just the fact it was longer and just kept going and kept us entertained. It was kind of like Monaco, wasn't it? The qualifying was the highlight of the weekend, literally, because the race sort of gave us nothing to really get our teeth into as much. But my drive of the weekend, so I had 3 choices. Luckily, you've covered 2 of them, so I'm going to give mine to Liam Lawson. I thought he had more underrated than the other 2, but I think he had a good weekend. And when we're going to put people down when they have a bad weekend, we're going to pick them back up when they have a good one. So give mine to Liam Lawson. But yeah, George Russell and Carlos Sainz, being on the podium, got my 2. Your Max favoritism. I mean, all he did was drive away from the front. He didn't do anything. That wasn't a good weekend.
But if it was a McLaren driver, you wouldn't give me them flowers.
No, exactly. Your British bias is showing.
Well, as is my right as a Brit.
I was about to say that. Thank you for saying that.
Well, my highlight of the weekend was getting cancelled in this podcast. I can't say qualifying.
After today, you will never accept a 3-way phone again.
It's not even going to be us discussing for an hour.
I can already say he will never do this again. He will never have 3 guests at the same time ever again.
Starting next week, this podcast is just me talking to camera.
Only
McLaren fans. It's Spanish anyone else.
You two, calm down. Come on. Right. Look, I'm trying to close off very sensibly here. So, highlight of the weekend was a little bit of rain that set everything up, gave us something to hope for. And even in the race, even as the race was coming to a close, it was like, oh, there's a little bit of rain at T16, and it was like, please douse the track right now. So that little bit of rain, that little bit of inclement weather, the little bit colder temperatures really sort of made this race for me. It set up everything from qualifying, I think. So it seems like a cop-out answer because it is a bit. I don't think this race offered very much. So to try and think of a third highlight was quite difficult. Anyway, right, let's wrap up there before I get hurt anymore.
Highlight.
There's a future highlight
that we might see old Baku from the previous generation of cars, hopefully, with these new regulations from 26 onwards.
Let's hope that next year when we come back to Baku, that it is a better race. But for now, Eddie, Louis, thank you so much for coming on and discussing the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. It's been a great laugh. It's been mostly you too, more than me, considering my discussion was with the system. Yeah, you've got your own battles to pick on. Don't worry about us McLaren fans and us Red Bull fans are bickering. Yeah, sorry about your network issues. Hopefully, if you're listening to this, it hasn't too much. But
actually, it's been great was light issues. Was light issues because this sucker right here is rainy. I blurted out because this crap is foggy as all hell.
So, I mean, Brit bias again. It's nighttime here, so I've got lights and things on. No disruptions here. Anyway, Louis, thank you so much for coming on. Eddie, thank you so much for joining once again. I'll put all the links to you guys underneath on the episode
most likely
notes.
last time.
To you listening. No, probably not the last time. For me as well. Cancel my own podcast. For everyone listening at home, thank you very much. Please do all the bits, like, subscribe, hit the notifications, because I'm very bad at reminding people that I've recorded a podcast and putting it out there. So do all of that business, and then it will come up automatically as soon as it's uploaded, ready for you. Normally Tuesday mornings. Following this, I've got a exciting interview coming up with the wonderful Bryn Lucas, which I've already recorded. So that's brilliant. So even if I get cancelled, I've got that to put out. Brilliant. So thank you very much for listening. All the best. Have a good day. And until the next time, thank you and goodbye.